My mic is muted that whole time. What a phenomenal introduction that was that you were not able to hear. I said on the scale from 1 out of 10, how excited I am this morning to be here is a 10. So ask your questions, real estate, or any other kind of questions that you have. And hey, we are 2 minutes early, so bonus time. This is really exciting. We had a pipe freeze in a commercial property that we just purchased. There is one unit that is occupied. So that happened last night around 10 or 11 p.m. So I'm feeling awfully sleepy, but nonetheless, super excited. So questions. The damage was actually minimal, if you're wondering about the water damage. Fortunately, there was previously some plumbing issues. So in the downstairs commercial space, there's some drop ceiling that's missing and kind of crumbled from being wet previously. And where the pipe froze, it did so in that same area. So that's about it. There's a very strange situation happening there. So we had to force entry into like the upstairs unit. It's maybe occupied. It's more of a squatter type situation, but that's okay. We just shut off the water at the main. And then the plumber came out. He was kind enough to come out so late, and he was able to get it to where the one occupied unit upstairs was able to keep their water. And he just was able to shut off water to the second unit. So the one guy doesn't have to go without water until we're able to fix it. So that's good news. It has a furnace as well, so it's kind of my fault for not heating that commercial space. But I haven't been able to make it out there since we got the electric on and also the gas on. So now that they're both on, I should go get the furnace working so this doesn't happen again. Oh, because we were able to recover pretty quickly, but I don't want to make a habit of pipes freezing. I think that makes sense. Project Firehouse update. We are so close to being finished. We had 2 issues. After we got all the drywall up, we found a leak in the wall. So we had to remove some of the drywall to get to that pipe. My guy fixed it. And then after he fixed it, it happened again. So we are fixing it the second time. And unfortunately, after he fixed it the first time, he went ahead and put the drywall back in and made it all pretty again. So now we have to do that once more. And then in the kitchen area, this is our mistake, but we accidentally got a little ahead of ourselves and covered up the outlets with drywall. So we had to go in and find all of those. The electrician pointed that out to us whenever we called him back to kind of to finalize everything, put all the fixtures up, put all the outlet covers on, and make everything look real nice and pretty. So I need to get out there, get some pictures taken, and show you all what a beautiful house it's turned into. So we still do not have the heat issue resolved. So it's still about 90 some degrees upstairs and like 60 some degrees downstairs. We ordered, or the HVAC guys, they ordered or built a custom damper. And I guess what that does is deviate the hot air that's going to the upstairs downstairs instead, or something. It somehow controls the airflow to try and help that out. So that should get installed sometime next week, and then we'll know if that works or not. But man, let me tell you, since it's an electric furnace on a heat pump, that electric bill is real high. It has been averaging us probably around $300 per month. But again, we're just wasting so much air heating the upstairs up to 90. So does PropStream only work in the States? Does it work in other areas? Guam? That's a good question. Let me check real quick. Should be easy to figure out. I have a sneaky suspicion that it does not work in Guam. Let's see if Japan is an option. No, let's not do that. That's silly. Let's just go do exactly what you said. Guam. Enter county, city, zip code, or APN number. Let me just type in Guam and see what happens. Nope. Try one more time. Nope. Let me try a third time because they say that one is a charm. Guam. No? Yeah, I don't think it works. Let me see how far I can zoom out. Let me see if I could get a satellite image of the world, if it'll let me go out that far. All right, now I can see all of America. Oh, now I see the ocean and Africa. Let me try to zoom in on Africa because I don't know where, I'm not educated enough to know where Guam is. Let me see if I can click on a parcel in the Republic of the Congo. No. No, I see no parcels that are clickable in the Congo. Oh, 37. Thanks, man. I appreciate you letting me do this. I don't know though. That's probably a bad pick. Let me do this one more time, and then I'll get off of it. But man, this is kind of exciting. Let's see. Where I don't know anybody that invests in the Congo. Let's do something more reasonable. Let's see if I can click something in Canada. Yeah, Alberta. Oh, Edmonton. I've heard a lot of people talk about Edmonton. Oh, there's a Walmart and the Three Amigos. All right, I'm looking at houses and they're not clickable. Let me type in Edmonton. No. No, so I guess it integrates with Google. It even lets me drop a little rascal in here and do a street view of Edmonton. So I guess it just uses Google, but doesn't actually allow me to pull data, which makes sense. I imagine though that if PropStream is a successful business model here in the States and they get enough momentum, they'll likely pick up other places. Just a guess. Thanks, man. That was a really good question. Man, I had fun doing that. I've read How to Win Friends. It's really mind-changing books. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And you sent me a message somehow asking me for my email address. There you go. Ryan@seekwisdom.us. I saw that you left yours, and it's on my to-do list. I'm running really far behind as far as emails go. So thanks for your patience. PropStream, better than the MLS. It sure is. It's a massive data aggregator. What insights, lessons learned, or thoughts do you have about purchasing, renovating, and renting in bad neighborhoods to help people and maybe start transforming, building up the neighborhoods? Sounds good to me. That sounds like a good idea. I like the way that you framed the question. The way that you framed the question makes it seem like nothing can go wrong. Insights, lessons learned, or thoughts do I have? I think it's a good thing. I don't, because words are important because they mean things. I don't like saying that something is like a bad neighborhood. It might just have issues that you don't have the bandwidth to handle. But the neighborhood inherently is not bad, and the people in there inherently are not bad. And I think people need to stop saying that, like bad neighborhoods. I get the question. I'm not picking on you, Chi-Chi, Mikey. I'm just saying, words mean things, and we need to be precise about what we're saying. And neighborhoods, transforming, building up the neighborhoods, helping people. I think those are all really good things to do. And I think restoring neighborhood to their like original beauty is probably one of the greatest satisfactions in life. I mean, it does the soul really good to take a like derelict, kind of forgotten about, distressed property and make it real nice again. I like it a lot, at least. So yeah, I think it can be done. And I think I guess my insight would be, um, if you want to have change at the magnitude that you are suggesting, then you really need to target your efforts in one particular area. I would suggest starting with one street that you see the potential of you being able to own multiple properties on that one street. And then as you do that, if you find any properties that you can get on the adjacent streets, then you should probably do that. I mean, it's not like if you're buying properties for cash flow or for like buy and holds, it really doesn't matter, the proximity to each other. But if you want to instigate change and transformation, then it's better to have the ability to control more in the same area than less. So a lot of times when people ask me where I want to invest or like how I figure out what place I want to invest, I mean, a lot of it has to do with exactly what you're asking. So if I'm offered a home in a different area, I'll look at it. And if the numbers make sense, I'll likely buy it. But I've very much so limit the amount of properties that we purchase that are not in our target area, because it only dilutes our ability to do these things that you're asking, Chichi Mikey. 96910. Let me go back. 96910. 96910. No data. Oh, MP. Let me click on that. Oh. Try changing or expanding your search criteria. No matching results. Man, we tried. It's by Japan. Everything always goes wrong in real estate investing. That's not true. You pessimist. Pessimists are not allowed on this live stream, Lewis Porter Jr. Everything goes right. Money is always made in real estate investing. Now, how much you get to keep, on the other hand, that's the debatable part, right? Oh, it's by Japan. That's pretty cool. I like Japan. I also like Guam. I'm just getting started. We'll be buying first property. When should I get an LLC? What state are you in? I would say that the answer to that question largely depends on where you are and what comes with, like, what strings are attached to LLCs. Like, I know in North Carolina, I never formed an LLC because the annual fees, but here in Ohio, it's $99 once to start an LLC and then no annual fees. So it makes sense. So if you're in a state like that, so Illinois, LLC, Illinois cost. See if there's any annual. The filing fee is $150. File annual reports. The filing fee is $75. If you file a report more than 60 days after due date, you get an extra $100 penalty. So, I mean, I would say whenever it's not a pain point for your business to pay $75 a year for the benefit of having an LLC, then it's probably smart to get one. $75 a year is pretty low. I know some states, like, what is California? I hardly think anyone should ever have an LLC in California. Yeah, that's what I thought, just talking to my California friends. Yeah, $800 a year for LLCs in California. And they hit you with that, even if, like, if somebody were to live in California but be the owner of an Ohio LLC, they still have to pay the $800 on the LLC that's formed here in Ohio, even though the business is not in Ohio. But because the resident that owns the business is in California, they still come after you for that $800. Isn't that wild? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know anything about anything. So let me put up this disclaimer. There we go. Look at that. I don't know what I'm talking about. Is that per year? $150 per year. And an S Corp is probably yeah, thank you. And thank you for being on here asking questions. I'm telling you, this is the highlight of my week outside of marital and family things. Professionally speaking, one of my top 5 weekly activities is this live stream. I like it a lot. See, look at that. We started high and unreasonable, and we worked our way down to probably reality. That's what I like to do. I often find that I exaggerate in order to prove a point. It's not necessarily the greatest character trait of mine. Sometimes I try to curb it, but I'm not always successful. $75 a year, and your first property. So if you're going to get your first property in Illinois, then I would ask you how you're going to finance it. If you are going to pay for it in cash, then you should likely form an LLC and put the property in an LLC. If you are going to try and obtain financing, then you likely won't have the opportunity to put it in an LLC. You can do a quitclaim deed after you get financing and then put it in your LLC, and then you can file an LLC. I said that backwards. If you file for an LLC and then you buy a property using traditional financing. Okay, so cool. I'll stop that tangent because you're paying for it in cash. So yeah, definitely go ahead and form an LLC then. And the only reason I say that isn't for the liability protection or the separation of assets. This disclaimer for sure. This is definitely not legal advice, but the biggest concern that I have as far as like when you should start LLCs is the banks. They really want to see 2 years worth of tax returns for a business entity before they lend to that business entity, from my understanding. So it's always best to get your LLC and get your LLC to start making money as quickly as possible so that your 2 years, your timer can go ahead and start. That way your entity becomes bankable faster. So completely different from the liability perspective, but the bankability perspective. If you're in a new area, how would you go about putting together your handyman and general contractor team? Any points on vetting? Yes, I have a lot of opinions about this now. So I think the most specific ones are definitely like broad, basic things that anybody should probably always do. And like the biggest things are like, don't pay contractors up front. Even if they say like it's their MO to collect a 50% deposit before they start, then I would go ahead and move on. I wouldn't trust that. And I even have some contractors that I regularly work with that occasionally ask me for a deposit like that. And we've had to have conversations about it. And, I've told them, it's nothing personal. I was just burned on a similar setup in the past. And, I'm not going to do that. So we negotiate it down pretty heavily. If I were in a new area, then I would most certainly want to connect with other real estate investors first. And I would build a network of people that are already doing exactly what it is that I hope to be doing. So, for example, I'm sure Guam has a bunch of real estate investors, as most places do. So I'd want to know as many of them as possible, figure out, what their kind of tips and tricks are, how they're making money in the market, figure out if there are any contractors that are recommended, and more importantly, if there are any contractors that are kind of like blacklisted, so to speak, that you should avoid. And then my favorite way to start working with contractors is by giving them a very small job first and not immediately hiring someone for like a full rehab. So, for example, I just hired a new contractor that I haven't really worked with before. And I had one of my main contractors who I know and trust do like a full rehab on a property. And I went through and kind of nitpicked it, and there was one door that was not replaced. So I hired another contractor to come in and replace that door just to see like how they did. And then I used that same contractor for another job that was somebody changed the roof, but we never went back and fixed the drywall. So I hired him to go in and patch the drywall. And that one is occupied. So I also followed up with a resident and got their opinion on the contractor. So because both of those things went very well, then I also had him bid and gave him the responsibility of completely renovating one home that we have purchased. So the first job was the door. That was like I think it was like $250. And then the drywall was like $150. So we spent $400 on little things. And then after that was handled well, now we just gave him a $16,000 job. So in a perfect world, if you have the ability to set yourself up like that, that is what I would suggest. That makes me most comfortable. And like I said, there was that one time where I accidentally prepaid somebody and kind of lost 20 or 30 grand. Or maybe I'm exaggerating to prove points again. I didn't really look at the numbers because they're so painful. I'm sure my brother knows, but hey, there are some things that I don't like to know. And how much money I lost because of my stupidity is one of them. I've heard that after a property closes, lenders usually don't check back for who owns the property so that you could move title into an LLC. Not sure about this. True. Due on sale clause is the name of the part that is inside maybe of the loan documents that you signed that say if the property or the deed is transferred to anyone else, then the entire loan is due at the time of transfer. So it is true that generally speaking, banks do not have anyone that's going around being like the deed police, if you will. So you can likely get away with it. It's kind of one of those calculated risks that you have to take. Like, is it worth it? I have talked to several lenders about it, ones that we have loans with. I have decided to do it on about 2 or 3 loans that we have. And we also did not do it on probably about 5 or 6. And I don't really have a good reason as to why we decided to do it on 2 or 3 and why we didn't on the others. So it's kind of one of those personal preference things. I'm trying to remember a conversation that I recently had with someone whose wife was formerly an attorney for the banks. I suggested doing a quitclaim deed, and they said no, because at one point, I guess it was like back in the housing crisis. I really want to remember who this is so I have more context. But that's what she did. She went around and figured out which loans were callable and started calling them. So I guess if you are comfortable in the event that the bank does find out in paying the loan balance in full, then you're okay. And there's no harm, no foul. The chance of that happening, very unlikely, but nonetheless, calculated risk type stuff. Technical question. What program do you use to do scrolling text in YouTube? Are you talking about what I'm doing right now? This number? Because that's a secret. So what I do is I use Canva, and I see your question, and I'm over here in Canva making a little icon real fast, and then I overlay it on the screen. I'm just kidding. It's called StreamYard. It's a website, StreamYard.com. StreamYard. I don't remember how much they are. And since I'm on this thing at the moment, I can't really navigate around the pricing, but it's worth it. I mean, I think it makes it look really nice and pretty. And this setup, I mean, in theory, I could stream on this and Facebook at the same time, but I don't really care to do that. And like right now, under your next to like your face, this little YouTube thing. I think like the first time I did a live stream, it was also on Facebook. So I'd click on one comment, and then it would be a little blue, the little Facebook logo in that one, rather than this. In theory, you're supposed to be able to stream simultaneously between YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, but I don't do that. I only do YouTube because you guys are the coolest, and this is the platform that I love the most. All right, now back to real estate questions, Lewis Porter Jr. Let's see, did I miss anything? I don't think so. I really like this question, and I really think that it's pretty formulaic, like how to go. And I think networking and I think the educational piece is probably true in most markets. And you know, when you move into a new market or you're looking to invest in a new market, I guess the really important things that you need to do are drive around, figure out what area you think is the most promising, what area you would be most happy with the returns, and you know, like the quality or the amenities, its proximity to amenities, all of those things. And then the networking piece. So then it's just meeting other like-minded people that are in the area, that know the ins and outs, that know really quickly if a deal is good or not. And I would say probably the first like 30 properties that I purchased, I had 3 people that I would call and talk to them about the area, the particular deal, and the numbers before I purchased each one. And I think, you know, every now and then somebody on this live stream will ask me, like, you know, what is the biggest thing that, you know, I messed up, or what's the biggest thing that I did right, or something like that. And I think they're both the same answer. Like, fortunately, I haven't messed up too much stuff because I allowed so many people to speak into what I was doing before I did anything. So I think, you know, the whole, going back to the whole wisdom thing, if you could see it behind me, it's really important to me. And you should seek that above all else, above silver and gold. Wow, I did that really quickly. When do you need a property manager, CPA, attorney? Like at what point? Thank you. Not many people do. When I was in law enforcement, I often got in trouble because my sense of humor is very bad. And my whole demeanor is just not good for really sensitive, high emotion type situations. Because I'm always monotone and deadpan. And when I say things like, oh, I'm really sorry that happened to you, it has this way of not being authentic or genuine. Oh, man. I spent a lot of time really, really sad about the complaints that I got because I meant it, but they didn't think I meant it. You need a CPA immediately. I'm horrified. So when my wife and I when we started our first business, I was still like full-time in law enforcement, and my wife was, you know, still an assistant principal. And we started a candle company of all things. And like I mentioned, like North Carolina, and just that type of business, like there was like this quarterly sales report that we had to fill out, and like the IRS mailed it directly to me. And man, I remember just letting the mail from the IRS just kind of sit there for a really long time. And it caused me a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. I didn't open it. I was worried each time I opened it, even though it was the same thing every quarter. And whenever it started becoming less of a hobby and more of a business, I was like, okay, the first thing that I need to do is find a really good CPA so that I don't have to live with this type of anxiety, because it's just too much. Like, I don't want to be audited. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to, you know, be accused of tax evasion or any of those things. So I think a CPA that has your best interest, that knows what you're doing, that you can call and ask questions freely to, is probably paramount to you making money on your own. So CPA immediately. You probably already should have had one. And then let's see here, property manager. I don't know. When I first started, I was very adamant about using property management, and I did so for sure. All of the things that I was reading said, you want to use property management because it's going to save you so much time, because you're likely a high W-2 income earner, or there's another thing that you can do that earns you more money than the time that you would spend. And I think that's kind of true. So like on our first property, I think I paid like right at $80 per month because the gross rents were $1,000 and that management company was charging me 8%. And at the time I was selling life insurance where if I sold one policy, I might make like $500. So in my head, it was just like, okay, I need to focus on selling life insurance, not on managing this property, because it would make more sense for me to go out and make $500 rather than save $80 per month. And I think that's true to an extent. And when we took over property management, when we brought it in-house, we had around 60 or 70 properties, I believe. I did a video on it. It's a lot more precise than I am now because I don't quite remember. But that made sense because when we took property management in-house, we like also immediately recaptured about $5,000 in fees. And I think the flaws in my thinking around that are largely in the fact that it's not like the management fee is the only expense. And I think that's the difference between like a good property management company and a bad property management company, because ideally, perfect world, you get gross rents less the management fee every month. And that would be a great property management company. The issue with property management, though, is a lot of times, especially in these lower valued areas, the retainer or their management fee isn't necessarily enough to sustain their business model. So they have to start charging overrides or minimum service fees. And eventually they just kind of have to nickel and dime their way into profit. So now we're not talking about $80 a month. We're talking about much more than that. So like, I know, for example, the first few months that I had my first property, at the end of every month, after all the minimum service calls, I would have maybe like $300 left. And out of that still had to come the insurance, the taxes, and all of that. So I know like the first year of me having that property, I think it made like $2,000 or $3,000, which was very small considering the fact that I paid $35,000 of cash. So outlaying $35,000 for the return of $3,000 was not a great deal, in my opinion. So many things I just said, and to what end? So that's my answer. I think it's up to you. I think you should think about all of those things and figure out. I think it's a personal preference. And I guess it really also has a lot to do with, when I say personal preference, about like, do you want to have the issues that are going to come along with property management? And I can say from like an actual management perspective, at this point, we have around 90 properties, and at the actual managing part, now we have Appfolio, a lot of things are automated, but we spend less than 5 hours a week on like the management of it. So there's that. So it's a lot. I was very taken aback when we did take property management in-house. It's this thing that I always feared because of just hearing other people's stories, and also just reading that like most people use property management. And a lot of the materials and the literature around real estate investing, especially the things from Bigger Pockets last time I looked at BiggerPockets, it's been quite some time. Pretty much almost everyone advocated for using property management. And I think I'm against that now. I think after taking over property management, after experiencing everything, like last night was the second time in almost a year that I had like an after hours call. The other time was raccoons, which is very reasonable. So 2 after hours calls in a year. Other than that, like the maintenance requests, they submit the portal, I line up the contractors, and it takes about 10 minutes. My part takes about 10 minutes from seeing the work order, talking to the contractor, and exchanging the information from both parties. So that's my answer. Boy, what a long answer. I'm sorry. Wait, let me see if I chance attorney. I did not have an attorney until about 2 months ago, like an attorney that I called for like the evictions and advice on like the rental stuff. Now I have that relationship, and I think it's really cool. Beforehand, I did not have one. I have like the attorney that I talk to about like the LLCs and structurings of things, but not an actual person that I would call for advice on like resident issues. So I don't think the attorney is one that is imperative. I think you could accidentally waste a lot of money really quickly on the attorney part. We had a pipe burst last night. That was sad, but we fixed it. We didn't fix it, but we stopped the waterfall. Do you still keep up with your LinkedIn profile? How helpful do you think it can be for REI? No, I don't really keep up with it. I mean, my LinkedIn profile, I've got a lot of connections over there, but they're all like law enforcement related. So I love law enforcement people. But at the time when I started growing my LinkedIn profile, I was really just doing it for fun. When I was hanging out on the night shift with nothing to do, I was just connecting with other cops. Now I've got like 14,000 connections over there, and they're all law enforcement related. I have not tried to utilize LinkedIn for anything remotely related to real estate investing, and I haven't had any. You know what, though? No, that's not true. I met John Saforic via LinkedIn. I did a review of the Wealthy Gardener book that everybody should read. And after I did the review of it, I sent it to him on LinkedIn, and now we're totally BFFs. So I think the world of that man. And you should read The Wealthy Gardener and follow John on LinkedIn and all the other social media platforms that he's on. I am funny. Thank you so much. In my honest opinion, being who God made you to be is so important. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty. This is the part that I kind of, so organization is not my strong suit, but at the same time, I mean, going through all these comments, like at this point, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I appreciate your comment, but it's hard, like as I'm saying things and other people are typing things, it's tough for me to think back on the fly and figure out what you're talking about. Probably me getting in trouble. So thanks. I appreciate it. For real estate, good job. What do you plan on doing with your real estate license? I've had a lot of conversations with people about whether you should or should not be a licensed realtor if you are only interested in investing. So I'd be interested to hear your opinion on why you're doing it, what your expectations of it are. Yeah. If I buy a 4-unit, can I get an FHA loan 3.5 if I live in it for a while? Yes, you can. And that is absolutely something that you should do. A good friend of mine, he moved up here after he got out of the Army. He is living in a 4-unit. He bought it. Now, he used the VA loan because he got out of the Army. So he didn't have to. He actually got $70 back at closing, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I think 3.5% down on a 4-unit, living in it for a while is a phenomenal idea. And then if you want to be like an overachiever, I think you should live in it for the minimum amount of time required and then do it again. And I think while you are young, I think while you have few responsibilities, before your kids are in school, even before you're married, you should do that as many times as you can. Because, just think about, I don't know. I lived on my own and I bought my first house when I was 23. I got married when I was, 25. 25. I had 2 years. But still, if I moved each year, I would into 4 units and I acquired them this way, then I could have had 8 units rather than one house, which would have been a lot cooler than what I did. Now, I still did a decent job house hacking on accident, but yeah, Cassandra Young, you are on the right track. That's a phenomenal idea. That's a phenomenal train of thought. You should continue down that thought and do it. One of my favorite quotes is, "A man is what he thinks about all day." I guess you could, I mean, that's how it was written. I guess you could say a woman is what she thinks about all day too. Debating about selling one of my properties. What would make you sell a property? Nothing. Nothing at all, Lewis Porter Jr. I will never sell any of my properties. I'm just kidding. Things that would make me sell a property. Ghosts. If I needed cash, if for some reason I wasn't able to refinance, it would have to be like a short-term crisis that needed to be resolved by a quick influx of capital. Because from the long-term perspective, the math just doesn't work for selling homes. I mean, the math is, so if you have the option to sell a home or just refinance a property and pull out, 75% of what you would have gotten if you sold it. So that extra 25% is all you stand to gain, which then, depending on your tax situation, you might have to give up some of that extra 25%. And then the refinancing part is not a taxable event because you're just restructuring your debt, not actually having an influx of capital on paper. So the math always says keep properties, but a dislike of the property or a frustration with it. I've been very tempted to sell my 4 units because I just don't like managing them. It just comes with different issues, and I have friends that have a lot of multifamily properties, and the issues that they deal with, and then the issues that I deal with running a portfolio primarily of single family homes are just drastically different. And my personality meshes a lot better with the single family home portfolio than the multifamily. So a dislike of that individual property or a sudden need for capital. Those are the 2 things that would make me sell a property. Starting laying life-proof LVP in my first rental today. Any tips, tricks, words of encouragement, prayers? I like you guys. Man, you guys are a spiritual bunch. I like this. I'm a Christian, by the way. So seeing other people say Christian-like things makes me feel happy. Let's see. Laying life-proof floor. You're doing this yourself? You're doing your own work? I don't know, man. I mean, words of encouragement, great job. I don't know what constitutes as life-proof. And life-proof is distinguishably different. Distinctly different from tenant-proof. So hopefully it's both. Yeah, I think that's the right idea. I actually had breakfast this morning with a guy, and he was just saying that even on his properties that he has hardwood, he does not necessarily refinish the hardwoods, but rather lays LVP over it. And I felt the same way when I first started investing. I kind of felt like hardwood floors are for homeowners. So I wanted to cover up the hardwood floors so that if I ever sold the property, then potentially later down the road, somebody that wanted to really care for that property as a home could refinish the hardwood floors and care for them. But, big dogs, pets, people that just don't respect hardwood floors, like putting the little felt pads under the furniture. I mean, you could really tear up a hardwood floor quick if you don't want to keep up with it. So I think LVP is the way to go. So good job. I think you're smart. I think you're a smart man. Hi, Ryan. How are you? I'm very good. Do you have any CPA with real estate experience recommendations? Yes. Also, do you agree that the CPA doesn't have to be from the same state that you are a resident of? Yes, I agree with that. Only because I asked my CPA if I could refer him to people that are in different states, and he said yes. So his name is Phil Weichert. I think the world of him. He's got a lot of units down in Cincinnati as well. So I agree with you. That was one of my check boxes that I wanted in a CPA. I wanted them to also be a real estate investor because it just makes everything a lot more smooth. I talked to a lot of CPA firms. I walked into a lot of the places that had CPA on the door and talked to them, and it was just never as pleasurable of an experience as talking to another real estate investor. So his name is Philip Weichert. Let me see if I can just share his website or something. You know what I can do? I can share his LinkedIn. Phil Weichert, co-owner, Hebler and Weichert. Here we go. Dun, 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 dun. So close. There you go. In the comments. There's the CPA that I like a lot. He's a good friend of mine now as well. We met from a business perspective. I was looking for a CPA with real estate experience, and he has exactly that. He's really cool. I like him a lot. Can you check with your guests to see if anyone has had success creating an LLC that provides the owner with anonymity? If so, what steps do they take to set up the LLC? Let's see if anybody has already answered that. What if the place is a money pit? Then I'll fix it, man. Money pits are okay if you're going to hold on to them for a long time, because I mean, all properties are money pits. I mean, I created a really cool document that I like when I was trying to wrap my mind around how to be a conservative real estate investor and always save enough money. So I wanted to take every single thing that could possibly go wrong with a house and save the appropriate amount for it. So like if a driveway lasts 50 years, I want to, over 50 years, be saving on a monthly basis for that new driveway. That was when I was coming real hot and heavy off the Dave Ramsey train. And you just can't do it. You're never going to be able to collect enough rent from one property to pay for all of the things that it takes to maintain that property. So I don't know how people that just have a couple of rental properties ever do it. They generally are successful business owners or high income W-2 people that are just looking for the tax write-offs. I think real estate is like the law of averages or the law of large numbers game. So I think you have to have, a dozen properties for the numbers to really work in your favor, so that you're always collecting enough money on a monthly basis to take care of any of the immediate capital expenditure item that you're being faced with. Ghosts. Yeah, I'm funny. Your CPA is Phil. Yes, Phil is my CPA. Okay. Cool. So, no. All right, now that I've gone, let me go back to the original question and let me start talking about this. The only thing that I can think of, for the anonymity is, so it's easy to go online and file an LLC yourself. I formed 3 additional LLCs last week. I think the only thing that you can do for like anonymity's sake is use a registered agent. So if you use an attorney to set up the LLC, it depends. Some of them will charge you to be a registered agent. Others will just do it for free because you formed the LLC with them. And what that does, because anybody can be a registered agent. So you can be the registered agent on your own LLC. But when you go to like the Secretary of State's website and do a business search, the registered agent that's the person who is like public record. Like anybody can go on there and see the registered agent. So if you want anonymity, if that's important to you, you should not be your own registered agent. You should get an attorney or a third party. The only requirement in Ohio, at least, of being a registered agent is that you have to be available during normal business hours to be the recipient of certified mail. That way, suing you is easier and doable. The other thing that I would do for anonymity is any of your LLC documents, I get them sent to like a PO box or a UPS box or something like that. And if all of your LLC documents are made out to a PO box or a UPS store, then after the registered agent, you would also have another layer of your personal residence. So like a lot of times, especially if it's like a mom and pop's LLC or whatever, I mean, just a little bit of digging, like you can go onto the auditor site, you can figure out, because the deed, a lot of people, they have the registered agent, but then on the LLC side, when they get a property deeded to them, they use their personal residence address to receive, the deed, all the tax documents and whatnot. So if anonymity is important, then when you take ownership of properties in an LLC, you should get the tax documents and the deed sent to a PO box or UPS store. And I think that is about the most you can do for anonymity. Other than that, you just kind of have to put your tinfoil cap on and make sure you kind of cover your tracks actively. And kind of guard your personal information. But I just kind of feel like we live in an age where if you want to find somebody, you can find them. So I kind of like not being a person that's hard to find. Plus, I try to live my life in a manner where I don't do wrong to anybody or try and make anyone angry. And, if somebody has like a legitimate problem, I try to help them solve it, even if I am the one that caused it. So I don't know. I had to have this conversation with myself. I'm a good talker too, to me, and figure out, like, especially when I started this YouTube channel, because with starting the YouTube channel, with talking about the properties that I'm purchasing, I'm really shooting anonymity in the foot if it was important to me. So I had to make the decision that I would rather be out here helping people and accept the additional, what's that word? I think it starts with a P. Additional attention, I guess, not a P. Well, attention is not the word I'm looking for, but the additional attention that comes with it, and the obvious downfalls that come with that. So I know a lot of guys that don't want anyone to ever know how many properties they own, and I think there's some good points to be had there, but at the end of the day, if I were to die, I would not want to reflect and see myself as being a sneaky individual that hid behind a bunch of anonymity, but rather the whole like freely receive, freely give concept. So I really hope that nothing I say or do ever results in a lawsuit that, threatens the liability or like the properties or any of my assets. But at the same time, I would also rather not try and hide for that reason. I would rather, help you guys become the best real estate investor that you possibly can be. Life and health. Those are very important things. So the things that I don't like about the 4-unit are lawn care. I don't like paying for lawn care on single family portfolios. You're not responsible for the lawn care. I don't like paying for utilities. Generally here in this area, water and sewer are part of the owner's responsibilities. You can't necessarily subrogate that back to the tenants. I've heard of a lot of people attempt to do this, tell me they can do this, and there's just no easily scalable way to do it, in my opinion. I don't know of anyone that has installed one of those RUB systems. I don't know of anyone that has multiple water mains going in that can separately be metered. I don't like intra-residential issues. One of the 4 units we have, we used a leasing agent that we haven't before, and they put in somebody that was not a good fit. And after looking at the screening packet afterwards, after the fact, after they already moved in, it was too late, right? But I was like, holy cow, this is a horrible thing. Like, I have no idea why anyone would have put these people in here. And they never paid anything. And, they just had a bunch of parties, and they made all of the other 3 people, they individually reached out to me, letting me know that they no longer feel safe and they no longer want to live there. So on a single family home, like, whoever your neighbors are isn't my responsibility. So that becomes like a law enforcement issue, not a property management issue. That's about it. These types of issues probably disappear the larger the multifamily unit is. But at the same time, at the end of the day, everybody has the different things they're good at. And I really think that just who I am jives really well with the single family home type space. LifeProof is the brand from Home Depot. Well, I just looked in the top left corner. I see 23 people are watching. Thank you, guys. Last week we hit 34. So that made me really happy. That was like an all-time high for these live streams, but 23 makes me feel really good. So thank you all for being on here. I really appreciate you. I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe or share this with a friend. When I watch YouTube, it's just like, every person says that like, 10 times every video. So I'm not going to say those things anymore. I've decided whatever happens with this YouTube channel will happen. I'm done trying to get the popularity contest points. I just want to help you all. So if I can, reach out to me. I like it. LifeProof, that's the brand at Home Depot. And yes, you're doing it yourself. Good work, man. I've never done anything myself. The only thing that I've done in these properties by myself has been light a furnace. I don't know how to light a water heater. I shouldn't say that. It's true. It was just embarrassing to say. That's why I immediately followed it with I shouldn't say that. The city told me that I had to add a driveway. Nice surprise. You probably should add a driveway. I mean, that's probably a good idea. We just bought a property and we got it for really cheap. I say that because it was originally listed for 150. They dropped it to 135. It was only on the market for about 30 days. And then I put in an offer at 100 and we settled up at 105. And it only has on-street parking. It's a gorgeous property. We have it listed for rent currently for $1,400 a month. But the people that have been interested in it so far, they've gotten there and they're like, wait a second, is this only on-street parking? Which the answer is yes, but it's got a really nice backyard. I don't know if the property lines will allow me to add a driveway, but this summer I'm going to take a look at it because I think it would be a good long-term addition to the property, so long as it's not really easy to hit the house. If it's that tight, we probably won't. What would you say is the minimum amount of properties to own to really see a profit? In this market, I think the answer is 10. And for my brother and I, 10 is just once we crossed that threshold, we started realizing that. So like when we had fewer than 10 properties at the end of every month, my brother and I would have a very frustrating and uncomfortable phone call about like how much money each of us needed to put into the business to take care of all the expenses so that the business could live another day. And then after we crossed the 10 threshold, we realized that the cash flow from all of the properties was sufficient to take care of all of the expenses that the portfolio generated that month. Now, Obviously, this is specific to each portfolio and the way that you're building it. If you're buying turnkey, brand new homes, then you should be able to profit immediately because you shouldn't have any unexpected items. So long as you can keep it rented, then there shouldn't be any issues. Then at the end of every month, it's your gross income minus whatever your mortgage, taxes, insurance, the PITI thing. So if you had a portfolio full of perfect turnkey properties, then you should profit a lot greater. We have kind of built our entire business around buying distressed properties or properties that needed a little bit of work, so that we could get a little bit of equity. So that is why ours is 10. And plus the market that we're in, so back then our average rent was right around 600 or 650. I would say it's about 800 now because the market has increased and we've kind of increased our rents and the caliber of properties that we're purchasing because, that's not a fair assessment. Is it though? No, it's not a fair assessment. It feels like we're increasing the caliber of the properties that we're purchasing because we actually now have the capital to go in and make everything new immediately. So we often replace the furnace, the plumbing, tighten up the electric, stuff like that. Whenever we buy a home, paint, flooring, exterior stuff, we take care of it at the forefront. We like to call it front loading our capital expenditures. Whereas in the beginning, maybe we didn't do that. Maybe we even had a little bit of deferred maintenance for a little bit. Maybe I'm not going to point any fingers. What do you think about wholesaling? I think it's a phenomenal idea if you need quick cash. So if you are starting and you want to be a real estate investor, then I think capital is super important. I think this entire industry is extraordinarily capital intensive, and you have to have a lot of capital coming in on a monthly basis in order to really be a successful real estate investor, albeit from your portfolio or from a business that you own or a high income, W-2. It really speeds up the process of, building a portfolio. And this was me, so I'm not speaking ill of anyone. I made $44,000 a year when I was in law enforcement before I left. So now that entire time, I started in law enforcement right when I was 20 or 21, and I saved 50% of my income from the time I was hired. So when I left, I started real estate investing with around $100,000. So I had that capital, but I myself was not a high income earner, and I did not have the skills to go out and get a high income earning job. So if you do not have the skill set that a company would pay a lot of money for, then you could do things yourself that don't require a formal education, like wholesaling or flipping homes to generate a sizable amount of capital to then go out and get started in real estate investing. So I personally have made a vow to myself to never do anything that only pays me once. And I made that vow to myself when I left law enforcement. I started selling life insurance. And if you're not familiar with life insurance sales, for the most part, you get paid a lot up front and then never again. So it's kind of like selling a house versus renting a house. You're going to make a lot more money if you sell a house, but that's the only time that house is ever going to give you money. If you rent it, you'll get a little bit of money every month. So I do my best to only do things that give me a little bit of money every month rather than a lot of money at once. Because even though I was making a lot of money, just my personality, I did not like not knowing where my next paycheck was going to come from, or I didn't like knowing that in order to make the same amount of money that I just did, I would have to go out and work as hard, if not harder, the next day and the next month and the next year. It just seemed like I was on this endless treadmill where things were perpetually getting more difficult not easier. And I just feel like if you are concentrated on residual income, over the long term, that's going to, pile up a lot more, and things are going to get a lot easier for you. Man, long answer. I hope that was helpful. Do you put all your properties in their own LLC, and how does liability insurance for an LLC work? So in real estate investing, then generally your liability is attached to the property insurance policy. So if you own a single family home, then the LLC's liability is attached to that insurance policy. There are also commercial umbrellas that you can buy for your LLC. One of the companies that I have, I only say this metric because it's easy to remember. Obviously, this is not true for across the board, but their commercial umbrella policy is $500 per year per $1 million of coverage. So if you wanted a $5 million commercial umbrella, then it would be $2,500 a month. The general rule of thumb, I would say, is you want just as much liability coverage and insurance as your net worth is. Now, obviously, that breaks down after you become an extraordinarily high net worth individual. But if you're just starting out, having a $1 million insurance policy on the property, liability insurance policy, which is not a separate thing. It's just, when you're buying insurance for the property, just ask for $1 million liability limit. Now, some companies, especially the bigger box ones, they don't go that high. They only go to 500,000. So likely that's sufficient. But if they only go to 500,000, then I would suggest that you probably purchase a $1 million umbrella, either personally or in the name of the LLC. When you're just starting out, I kind of think it's neither here nor there. But again, that disclaimer is still rolling, so I don't really know what I'm talking about, Mike Jones. And then I wanted to write a book on this subject, but when I set out to do it, I just realized that it was all personal preference. And no matter how many people you asked, you would get different answers. And ultimately, there isn't a right or a wrong. It's just what you're comfortable with. I think if you want the most conservative of all answers, then the correct answer is every single property that you own needs to be in its own individual LLC. The problem with that, though, is that it's going to create extra bookkeeping, extra expenses, both from the LLC filing, depending on the state. As we just talked about earlier, the annual expenses that are associated with an LLC. Like in California, if you're paying $800 per LLC per property, I mean, I get that California rent prices are a lot higher, but here $800 is like 1 month's rent, and you can't have 1 month's rent going to just, facilitating the LLC. That would be silly. And then there are other people that have hundreds of properties in one single LLC, and they rely more so on the insurance policies and the protections afforded to them inside of that. And then I've got other people that, in addition to having one LLC per property, they also have each property in its own land trust with a unique LLC as the beneficiary to that land trust. And now that is for anonymity. So since you are the one that asked the anonymity question too, that's a thing that I left out earlier. Land trusts are just a sheet of paper that can somehow hold a deed. You'd have to talk to an attorney. And then the beneficiary of that land trust is, by all intents and purposes, the owner of the property. It's just that land trust or that sheet of paper that you can file. Just an increased anonymity. It doesn't provide any additional liability protection, just anonymity. And then I've got some other clients on the insurance side that have all of their properties, and they have a substantial portfolio that are just owned in their personal name. So it's almost like a risk tolerance thing, and you just have to come up with like what you personally are comfortable with. I got tired of thinking about this, so I just kind of lobbed it up to my CPA and my attorney, and I just figured that I would do whatever it is that they said. And between the two of them, they came up with the arbitrary number. Now it's truly arbitrary, but it's what we're doing. We only have 10 properties in each of our LLC. So we form an LLC, we start buying properties. As soon as that LLC has 10 properties in it, we shut her down. When I say shut her down, I mean we are closing off the LLC, not putting any more properties in there. We form a new LLC and then buy 10 more properties. That's what we do. Let's say this property is in a C neighborhood where the taxes on the property went up $150 a month, and now I'm evicting the current renter. What's your question? Did I miss something? Is this about the driveway still? Let's say the vacancy with this place is about 20% over 2 years, and let's not even talk about property management. But from what I have learned with this place, had made me more money. Yeah. So I had a bad business experience once, and I lost a lot of money. I guess I've had multiple bad business experiences where I've lost a lot of money. And I spoke with one very successful individual. His net worth is over 50 million. And I don't know this guy. It was a friend of a friend. And we went out one night, and he was just kind of commenting and asking me tons of questions about, what I'm doing from an entrepreneur perspective and a business perspective. And I was complaining about something that I had. And I'll never forget this. He said, "Sure, that's your business tuition. We all have to pay it." He's like, "You either pay for a formal education where they tell you and teach you how to not make any mistakes ever, or you are out there in the real world doing it and getting kicked in the face. And your lessons in the real world have the tuition attached to the problem, not the course." And I thought that made me feel better. So yeah, we all have to pay our business tuition. This sounds like it's yours, Lewis Porter Jr. I'm sorry you're going through this, but you're better for it. Duplex water bill. I have had success with Guardian Water in Columbus, and they place a sub-meter on a duplex that I have. Cool. Yeah, there's ways to do it. I just, you're still paying the water bill and then just recovering it from the tenants. So that's an extra couple clicks per month for you to add that to the tenant's account, I guess. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I just don't like it. That's all it comes down to. It's a me problem, not a tactical problem. Hey, man, I'm really happy to see you on here. I'm looking forward to seeing how your North Carolina stuff is going and how that one property that you had. And you have a property in Florida now, too. You're growing quick, man. You're making big moves. Awesome. We got 21 silent people on here. Who has some real estate questions that I can answer? Let's see if I missed anything or any other questions. While you guys are thinking about questions, I'm going to check my email real quick and see if this fella, I really can't wait to learn how to say this, has emailed me. No. Nope. Not yet. All right. I'll think about something I'll try to think of something to say or talk about while you guys are still trying to figure out what kind of questions you have. So if you're out there thinking about a question, thanks for the previous answer. Can you provide me with the names of attorneys in Ohio? I have 10 rental properties in my name. I need to move them to an LLC. I am overthinking the issue. Probably. But hey, better to overthink it than, better to overthink it while you don't have any issues than underthink it and then it become an issue that you cannot fix. So, yeah. Yeah, I can share attorney's information. send me an email because that would be easier for me to respond later than right now. Not yet. Not yet. We're meeting the guy that's experienced in building commercial kitchens on Monday, and we are going to go through the property and figure out how feasible it is and what the associated costs would be. Hopefully it's all doable, and hopefully I can have a taco spot where I eat tacos every day. It would be really cool to do a live stream from a taco shop. That would be really difficult though. Just put in the application for my first home. Good for you, man. Spear jab boxing. Awesome. Spear jab. Good work. I hope you are looking at your first home through the eyes of a rental property. That's my biggest advice to first-time home buyers is the chances of your first home being your forever home or your dream home or a home that you even want to stay in for very long is really slim. So it's most certainly advantageous to, while you're looking for your first home, not only looking at it from like a perspective of, yes, I love this area, I would like to live here, but also from a, once I move out, once I am done with this place, it will also be a good rental property. So I hope you did that. New to all this, but found your teaching the best. Thank you. I really appreciate that. How do I start constructing a rental or rent to own contract? Man, I would probably shy away from a rent to own contract. All of the people that I've met that do the rent to own program, there's a large down payment and very specific conditions that you have to regularly meet lest you lose your option to purchase and are stuck with a contract where you are responsible for all the maintenance issues and probably also an above market rate monthly payment. So a land contract would probably be a little bit better, buying a rental property and the current owner of that property be willing to like hold the payments for you or like act like the bank for the first year or 2 years. And that's a relationship thing. That's a relationship thing. And then just like a regularly asking for it type thing. So I would say that for the first like 15 or 20 properties that we purchased, every single time we had the option to buy the property, we also asked the existing owner if they would be willing to sell or finance it. Largely the answer is no, because most people that are selling properties would prefer one lump sum rather than small monthly payments with a promise of a balloon that may or may not happen in like 2 or 3 years. So you definitely have to put on your salesman cap and explain what the benefits to them would be and why they should trust you and all of that, which is pretty hard to do on like just a relationship that started from a purely utilitarian, like kind of transactional standpoint. So it's great when you can get them, but it's a lot of work to get them and a lot of relationship building. Not possible. Very cool when you get it. We have benefited greatly from people being willing to sell or finance to us. It's been very nice of them. We are super thankful for them. And it has definitely allowed us to pick up momentum faster in our portfolio. I forget the first part of your question. I'm going to look back down now. How do I start constructing a rental? Do you just mean putting a deal together, or do you mean like actually building? Because I can't help you on the building part, but on putting the deal together, it's just a matter of figuring out what market you want to be in, figuring out what price point you want to be, and then making sure that after all of your monthly expenses, the income that the property can generate exceeds those expenses. And then it's up to you on how far you exceed the expenses. Some people are comfortable with 150, other people have a minimum of 300. Totally up to you what you're comfortable with. Just make sure that inside of your numbers, you include, things that could potentially go wrong. What's the reasoning behind some of your properties being under an LLC? Oh, all of my properties are under an LLC, except for a few of them. Well, I think the legal answer is, in theory, if I get sued, then the first stop is the insurance. So insurance would help me with whatever the insurance policy has already determined, is already written into the contract that they will help me with. After it exhausts the insurance, then all of the assets under one LLC would then be at risk. So let's say I have a $500,000 insurance policy, and the judgment or the judge declares that I owe them $1 million in, liability, whatever, damages. I don't know what it's called because I'm not a lawyer and not somebody you should be listening to. Then the insurance company would pay for the first $500,000. So now I have to make up the second $500,000. So what would happen then is any of the assets that the LLC has need to be kind of liquidated in order to pay that, or like deeded over, or anything else that the person is willing to accept. So if the property is in one LLC, and like that's why the most conservative answer is one individual property per LLC, because if the insurance policy is exhausted, the only thing that you risk is that property, because the LLC doesn't own anything else. So if the 10 properties in one LLC, in theory, what we're saying is, worst case doomsday scenario, we're comfortable with losing these 10 properties. That's the answer. Awesome. Happy to hear that. I wouldn't do it. The nicer the market that you get in, the more desirable the location, the smaller the returns. So if this is a personal thing for you, and you just want to live by the beach or have a place to go by the beach and then rent it out when you're not using it, I think that kind of makes more sense. I don't think I would want to do that. But if you're a beach person and that's what you want, then I think that's a more appropriate way to look at it than, I'm going to buy this house on the beach for me to live every couple of months. But if you are truly only interested in it for the real estate investing aspect, then your return on investment should be one of the most important things to you. And I just don't think your return on investment on the beach condo is going to be anywhere near other places that you could buy properties. Where do you find your listings for potential properties you might buy? That's a fun question. Let me pull up all the properties that we are currently under contract in and the ones that we're looking at, and I will tell you. Let's see here. Under contract, we currently have 11 properties under contract. Let's see here. MLS, 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 MLS. A referral from someone that I met while working on one of the properties. It's actually the next. It's the neighboring property to one of the properties that we took from rags to riches. So he, we became friends during that process, and I, walked him through the properties at like each stage of it. And then he wanted to sell he decided he wanted to sell his house, and he was nice enough to reach out to me first. And I said, yes, of course. This next one was from another investor. They bought the property and they walked through it and they realized they didn't want it. So I'm buying it. MLS, 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 MLS. Now let me go back primarily since they're MLS. Another fun thing that I'm going to do is this is going to be from memory. And one of them we've had under contract since, September maybe. And it was one of those things where it needed to go through probate. And then I think like while we were doing this, one of the siblings that inherited may have passed away. So then we had to get some like other paperwork in place. I don't know, but it's finally closing today at 2:30. So I'm very excited. That one was listed for, I think $48,500, and that's exactly what we're buying it for. The other property was listed for $43,000, and we are purchasing it for $32,000. That's on the MLS. The other one was listed for $55,000. We negotiated down to $40,000. So one of the things that we've been doing here lately that has been seeming to work very well for us, so well actually, that I kind of feel like I'm the one that's missing something, and the joke's ultimately going to be on me. But that's that negative inner talk that needs to kind of go away. This other one that's on the MLS, it was listed for $155,000, and we put it under contract for $122,000. This other one, it was listed for $50,000, and it's $45,000. The other MLS properties. Now this one was listed for $52,000, and we put a contract in for $54,000, and we went over asking just a little bit, just because it was on the market for about 10 hours before I had it under contract, and I didn't want to not have it. May have been a bad idea, but I think it's worth a lot more than they're asking. Another one that was listed for $100,000, and we got it under contract for $75,000. It doesn't need any work. It's rent ready. The other one, it's listed for $60,000, and we have it under contract for $42,000. And this last one, it was listed for $50,000, and we put it under contract for $43,000. So we've been able to negotiate some serious amount of money off, which just because the property doesn't necessarily sell for that doesn't mean it won't appraise for that. So for example, this is the best example that I have probably can ever like bring you guys is this property was listed for $150,000. It won't sell for that. We had it under contract for $122,000. After we put about $15,000 in it, it appraised for $200,000. So that's a massive win for us. And it was all off the MLS. So right now, all of the things that we have under contract are 95% of them. So out of 11, 9 of them are from the MLS. And then let me go over here and look at the prospect properties. These are ones that I got my eye on. MLS, but it was a short sale. So it's going to take a long time because there's nothing short about a short sale. Bad name. MLS. Actually, I can take these two off because they're not potential properties anymore because we did not win them. Other people won them, and I'm not bitter about it. MLS. And this other one, a realtor got my name. They have a client that needs to sell a property absolutely as quickly as possible. They want someone in cash, and they can close very fast. And that was just from a realtor, but just a referral from someone else. So it was never on the MLS, just a word of mouth thing. That was fun. That was really fun. I thought that was very helpful. I think if I were not me and someone said all that, I would say, wow, thank you. That was very helpful. So, yeah, Cassandra Young, that was a phenomenal one. I don't think it was going to change much on a weekly basis. If it did, I would say this is a phenomenal thing that we might need to do every Friday, maybe like once a month. I think if you keep coming back, that's something that you should regularly ask on this live stream, because that was helpful, I think. And then also going over the numbers of like what it was listed for and what we offered that was accepted. I think that's probably a useful tool too, because this mastermind group, there's a guy in there, and he just kind of casually mentioned a couple weeks ago that he had a lot of success in he has had a lot of success just lowballing properties that are listed on the MLS in the past. So we kind of took to the MLS and found all the properties that had kind of been sitting there for a little bit, and just started offering substantially lower than what they're listed for. And I mean, this one, we closed on one last week, and I've already mentioned it before, but it was listed at 150. It dropped down to 135, and then we put it under contract for 105. 105, and the appraisal came in at 155. So again, this is this weird gray area that I'm just now starting to get kind of familiar with. Is just because a property won't sell for something doesn't mean it won't appraise for that, because you kind of miss that human touch to it when we're talking about appraisals, because like the variables, like the property that just got appraised for 200 grand, it sits like the front door of it is looking directly at the back door of a local bar. So the location is horrible. It's a big house. It's the house that is sized for a family, but it's not necessarily the ideal location to no, I don't think many people would be like, oh yes, this is exactly where I want to raise my children. So it doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a good home for someone to purchase, but it does lend itself to being a good rental, because the person that's looking to rent for a little bit is going to be far less concerned about the fact that its front door looks at the back door of a bar. Similarly, the one that we got for 105 that just appraised for 155, it only has the on-street parking that we talked about. So there's that. It's a fun gray area. I see that there are still 22 people on here, but there are no questions. And I've been talking for a very long time. We have gone 10 minutes with no comments. Is this an issue on my end? Let me pull up the old YouTube and see if StreamYard is just having an issue bringing the comments over. No, it looks on YouTube. You guys went silent on me. Cool. Well, hey, Cassandra, thanks again for asking that question that got me talking for a very long time. 10 minutes to be precise. So now we've got 23 people on. Oh, the 23rd person is me. Since I'm watching it, let me like it. Nice. Well, cool. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's a phenomenal. Hey, I can do it. Soya, Goya, Zoya. There we go. No questions today. That's okay. I really appreciate you tuning in. Is it best to find a realtor who will hustle and make a bunch of offers for you, or get your license and make the offers yourself? I don't think those are the only options available. So on almost all of these properties that we currently have under contract, what we did was we reached out to the listing agent to get these properties under contract. I like to do that because it allows me to meet additional people that are already in real estate. And then I can introduce myself. I can tell them what I like to invest in, where I like to buy properties. And it kind of just gets me in front of another person that may think about me when they see another property come across. So I think it's really powerful when you meet somebody. Obviously, they want to sell homes, and if you have the ability to perform when they bring you homes, then I think it's a really good kind of marketing strategy. I like to tell all of the realtors I ever come into contact with exactly what our criteria is. And of the probably 50 realtors that I have given this information to, only one of them has regularly brought me deals. And he hustles and he tries to find stuff. And what I like about him is he sifts through a lot of things and only brings me the things that he thinks are actually close to my criteria. What a lot of realtors like to do is they will say, oh yeah, I will set you up on this alert system. And they just go into the MLS and, create for me like this like client thing. And then just get these emails mailed to me of properties that I've already seen because I monitor the MLS too. So that's not really adding value to me, right? But that's like stage one of what realtors do. And then this one that actually brings me stuff and sifts through it for me. He's got, that same little campaign set up for me in the MLS, but he is the recipient of those emails. And then he sifts through the ones that he thinks I'd be interested in, and then points them out to me and sends me over those individual listings rather than just having that automated email come out to me every morning. So that's my preferred method. So I like to say, yes, generally I reach out to the listing agent so I can meet another real estate professional. But I also think that it's very important to have one realtor that is regularly interested in bringing you things. I am not interested in becoming a realtor because I feel like I would be losing one of my deal flow strategies. I would be saving a lot of money, but I would be losing deal flow, and I'd rather have more deal flow than save a lot of money. Still working on implementing what we learned. Nice. 2 people watching here plus a baby. See, look at that. That's funny. That's funny. Oh man, I really love kids. My son and I shoveled snow yesterday, and it was kind of a really cool, kind of surreal moment because he loves like working with me when I do things, but like he's got like a toy lawnmower that he pushes while I mow the lawn. But yesterday I bought 2 snow shovels, one for him because he likes to pretend he's helping. And man, I was so impressed. He's 4, but he actually did like 25% of the work. It was really cool. So I'd make like a big pile of snow, and then he would actually do the shoveling and throwing to get the pile like out of the driveway. So that was really fun. And I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that was like the first time he ever had like a noticeable impact, because he like one of his I wouldn't say chores because he gets paid for them, but one of the ways that he makes money is the 4 units that we have. He goes around and picks up all the trash. He's got his little trash grabbers and picks up the trash in the common areas and parking lots and stuff. So he does also do a very good job at doing that. But I guess it was just because it was our house. It was kind of different. And it was like a physical task that he's never done before. So it was really cool. Man, kids are awesome. We are absorbing the Yoda-like knowledge. Oh, which app should I use to find available foreclosures? Is the HUD Home site useful? In typical government fashion, I personally find the HUD Home site website to be overwhelming. I don't like all of the boxes. Zillow and Trulia did a lot better job at forming a website that's very ergonomic. The government very much so failed. The HUD Home Store app is very user-friendly. It has its limitations, like if you want to find foreclosed homes in Dayton, you have to type in like Dayton, Ohio. And when you type in Dayton, Ohio, all the foreclosures in Springfield, Ohio wouldn't show up. So there's that. I think like the Trulias and the Zillows, whenever you type something in and there's like no results, it'll say like no results, but check out these, and that are like close by. But the HUD Home Store app does not have that, which is fine. Like once a week, I'll just type in, Dayton, Ohio into the HUD Home Store and try to figure out what's up. And on the HUD Home Store app, I think the biggest thing that you need to look for is like for the first, X number of days, I don't really remember at the moment, it's only available for owner-occupied bidders, government bidders, or nonprofit bidders. It doesn't open up to investors for, a couple weeks. I think it's like 11 days or something. And then after it's been on the market for 11 days, then anyone, it says, I don't remember the wording that they use, but it's just open for, maybe it says all bidders. Let's go with that. It says all bidders, and then investors can bid on it. But truth be told, Eugene Taylor, PropStream. PropStream is the best app to use for finding pre-foreclosures and foreclosures. Now, it is $97 per month, but I've got this link that you can log on today and get a free 7-day trial. Now, you have to put in your credit card information, and at the end of those 7 days, they're going to get you for that $97. But I think it is very much so well worth it. I use it on a daily basis at this point. If for nothing else, even if it doesn't increase your deal flow, what it allows me to do is run my own comps, which allows me to make more educated decisions on what I'm able to offer. I recently typed up an offer on a property, and I spent about 30 to 45 minutes crafting this email because the property just came on the market. It was only on there for like 10 hours, and it was listed at 125. And I offered $85,000, and I said, I'm sure this property is worth 125, but not in its current condition. I went on PropStream. I pulled a comp report, which turns out to be very professional looking. And I picked all of the properties that I could find because the PropStream has this feature that allows you to, all the comps that have recently sold, you can just click a button real quick and see pictures. So I did that, and I looked for all the properties that sold for around 85,000 that I thought were in similar condition. And then I listed out all of the things that would need to be done to bring it up to speed with a house that could truly sell for 125,000. And at the end of the email, I definitely included something along the lines of, because I was just like, I'm not trying to be insulting with this lowball offer, so please, let me explain why I arrived at this conclusion. And I got to say, as of yet, it hasn't worked out in my favor. It's been about 2 days, and who knows? Maybe it will sell. Let me figure out. No, you can't. I mean, maybe you can, but I guess you could. You would just reach out to the listing agent, but then the listing agent would likely be your agent. So they would be like, they would have dual agency. That's what I do a lot, dual agency. The listing agent gets paid more, which, on these lower priced homes is very beneficial. Because when a property is selling for 50 grand, it's there's not much meat on the bone. I was about to pull up something and look for it. Yeah, the genius link for PropStream, so I can get Mr. Eugene Taylor a free 7-day trial to the greatest real estate software out there. PropStream, of course. I use Genius Link because it allows me to see how many people click on it. And it also allows me to keep the same link. And like if, how like links break and whatnot, if the link breaks, I can fix it on the back end without changing the, like the URL, this like Genius Link. So, that prevents me from having to go back everywhere that I have ever pasted that link and changing it if it breaks for some reason. So it also allows me to do really sneaky things like Rentometer asked me to, be an affiliate. And I got to be honest, I never really used them. I used like their free trial, but it wasn't like they're helpful, but it's also available like for free from a lot of other sources. And then they said, no more. So then I went back and changed they just like discontinued, I think, their affiliate program, or they just got rid of me, one of the two. So then I put PropStream in my Genius link for Rentometer. So now if you click on the Rentometer link in any of my videos previously, Conveniently, you'll arrive at PropStream instead. I don't know if that's dirty or not. If that's unethical, tell me, and I will take you back to Rentometer. But I think it's funny. I think it's very funny. Good morning from California. Love your content. On my way to work now. Have a good one. Goodbye. I think you posted this a while ago at 9:33, so I probably missed you a little bit, but I really appreciate you tuning in. I really like when people from the West Coast log onto this live stream. I know it's super early, but it always makes me feel super special when West Coast people chime in at like 3:30 in the morning. 3747 is all the way out there in California, so he's regularly on here. That makes me very happy. What's your take on getting a real estate agent license while trying to be an investor? I think I answered this on accident when I was responding to something else. I am not interested in doing it. I could see how it's beneficial to somebody that wants to kind of save money, but I use the fact that I'm not a real estate investor. A realtor as kind of like a marketing campaign to network and allow other realtors to make money. So if I can network with the listing agents and if I can use them as a dual agent and allow them to make more money on the transaction, it's just like a positive experience of working with Ryan Ingram. So then hopefully they want to do it again, and hopefully they want to do it again so bad that they bring me more good deals to buy. Oh, thank you. If you had $5,000 to invest, what steps would you suggest to succeed? I would hold on to that $5,000 very tightly. I think when you have a very small amount of money to work with, I think one of the biggest things that you could do for yourself is learn how to hold on to capital. One of the first things that I suggest to everybody, and I've done this in like the Millionaire by 30 series, is say, get your first $10,000, put it in a bank account, and never touch it again under any circumstances. And I really think that being wealthy is a discipline. It is almost like a character trait. I don't like the character trait part because I think a lot of people, I just think that doesn't accurately reflect what I'm trying to say. Okay. Here's a good example that I thought of the other day, and I was actually very proud of myself when I thought about it. So imagine yourself looking how you do right now, and then one day waking up and looking like a bodybuilder. How long would you last looking like that before your daily activities return you to exactly the way that you look now, right? It's very comparable to winning the lottery. Just because you get an extraordinary amount of influx of capital doesn't mean that you have the discipline or the daily activities required to keep up with that amount of money. And, physical fitness is no different. So I think if you have a small amount of money, the biggest thing that you could do is invest in yourself, learn skills or services that you can offer to increase the amount of money you can command in the free market, while also getting the discipline required to hold on to capital. Because I get that everybody had, and I said this poorly once on a live stream before, where a lady asked me like how to get started with no money. And I said, well, the first thing you should do is figure out why you have no money. And it came off just like I said about my demeanor earlier in like my law enforcement career. I don't think I said it as well as I could have or should have. And of course, she came back and she had this very sad thing. Like her husband was sick for a long time and neither of them could work. And then he ultimately passed. And now she has to kind of fight for herself. It was like worst case scenario for me to accidentally say something that was that came across very insensitive. But I guess the biggest thing is working on yourself to become the vessel required to command a lot of capital and keep a lot of capital. And that is really hard. And I mean, you can see it in, like, you just watch anybody get money and it's like this learning curve, right? Like Nick Cage is a good example, right? he bought a bunch of castles and went bankrupt. First go around of having an extraordinary amount of money without having the underlying disciplines or education in order to hold on to it. And I mean, you could pick on celebrities that have made a bunch of money and lost a bunch of money all day long. The underlying behind the scenes parts of having money is a lot more difficult than the actual going out, taking action and making money. Like buying a house and building a portfolio is a lot easier than having the discipline to reinvest all the capital, take out only enough that my brother and I need to sustain our families, and continually putting everything else back in the business. That's the harder part. So if you have a small amount of money, likely one could assume that you haven't yet developed the skills and the disciplines needed to do that. Being from the Triangle, what pros and cons do you see investing in this area, both rentals and flips? I moved because I lived there too, buddy. That's how we met. I think the cons are the amount of capital required up front in order to get a foothold in the market. I think the pros are you have a phenomenal commercial base. So unless all of those businesses simultaneously decide to leave the area across all of the industries, the chances that your properties depreciate are very slim, because those companies are actively leading a campaign for the population to increase in that area, and not only increase, but increase with a certain demographic of people that are above average income earners. Consequently, just like we talked about your beach condo, it's going to be a higher market to enter with lesser returns. So I think that's the pros and the cons in a nutshell. Because whenever I started, I had $100,000. I couldn't have stretched it nearly as far as I have. I don't think I would even have like a quarter of what I have now if I stayed in that market, just because my entire business model would not be sustained in your area, because I borrow money at 10 and 12% from friends and family. And fortunately, the numbers here work with those deals. So if we buy a house for $58,000 and the monthly payment is $580, that property is going to rent out for like $1,000 to $1,200 a month. Whereas in the Triangle, if you're spending $150,000 on the property, you can't really borrow money at 12%, because that would be $1,500 a month. And I'm just not so sure you would be able to charge enough to pay the taxes, the insurance, and also enough to keep the property maintained. But at the same time, because you're in a higher price market, the likelihood of you getting a distressed property, or one that's not maintained well or turnkey, is a little bit slimmer, because the market is so much more competitive that people gobble up to flip the distressed properties in a matter of seconds. Whew. Man, I'm talking today. I guess that's what I do every week. I mean, it's such a weird feeling, because 22 people are on here. In theory, I'm talking to 22 people, and I feel like I'm interacting with people. But at the end of the day, all I'm doing is reading words and responding, and I'm sitting here by myself. So it's just this strange, I know that you guys are hearing me, but at the same time, from a physiological perspective, I have a hard time believing that I'm actually having a conversation with someone. It's very strange. Look at that. Look at that. What a great link for such a phenomenal software. Love PropStream. It's my new Zillow. Yeah, mine too. I love it. I really do. Can I get the listing agent contact on Zillow? Because most times it's not there. I just see Zillow agent's contact instead of the listing agent. Yeah, a lot of real estate agents do not like Zillow, because they take one lady said it best. I think she says they they take my listings and then sell them back to me, which is a good point. I sometimes you'll see on Zillow where it says who the listing agent is. But most of the times your other websites like realtor.com, that one will clearly show the listing agent. Sometimes the listing agents put the listing agent's information in the description. I think that's kind of smart too for the companies like Zillow that kind of really make most of their money by selling leads back to realtors. So that would be my suggestion. Going to realtor.com and finding that listing elsewhere. Generally, if I find a property on Zillow or Trulia, I think Trulia is a little bit better about making sure that the listing agent's name is somewhere around there. Otherwise, it's just Googling the address after you find it on Zillow, looking for a couple of different websites that have the listing, and then going from there. Thank you, Spear Jab. I like it. And it's right up your alley since you're a boxer. So, yeah, I mean, I think I have a sports background. So I think sports analogies, not sports analogies, but like physical fitness analogies make a lot of sense to me. What most helped you to learn the wealth character trait specifics? So I kind of think back to that favorite quote of mine, a man is what he thinks about all day. I mean, people that are sensitive to money that think it's like the root of all evil and stuff. And I get that like the love of money is the root of all evil, right? But not necessarily money. Like money is just a resource. Money is a thing that doesn't really exist. Money is kind of this tool that allows you to create for yourself the lifestyle that you desire. So for quite some time, I was really put kind of in a rock and a hard place whenever my wife and I had our first son. It was very important for us that she be a stay-at-home mom. And we just couldn't swing it the way that we built our lifestyle and the way that, in law enforcement, I was making like 44 grand a year, and there just wasn't enough meat on the bone. So I truly pondered on a daily basis, how could I make more money? And I went so far as to say, or read like one book per day until I could figure out how to do it. So I just consumed as much content as I possibly could about personal finance, about making money, about, like building businesses, and all of that. And, my whole motivation was not to become wealthy to chase material things, but just provide for my family the way that we just wanted to live, which started very simply. In that all I wanted to do was for my wife to stay at home. I really didn't care if I had to stay, working for like 18 hours a day. I just wanted our kids to be raised by my wife. And it has evolved into something where now most days I stop working around. At first it was 4:30 and I was at home every day at 4:30. And then it gradually became 4. And now I'm kind of pushing it to be like 3:30, sometimes 3 o'clock. But I can do that. And I recently took my son to the doctor's office, and they made me fill out this questionnaire. And I only knew about, 25% of the answers. But what I did know is they asked, how many days a week do you eat breakfast with your family? And then it said, how many days a week do you eat dinner with your family? And man, I was happy enough to say 7 on both of those. So learning all of the things about money and character traits, figuring out like the why I wanted all of these things. It wasn't for like this egotistical reason, but just for this like familial lifestyle type thing. So once I identified my why, then it just became like a matter of like, well, how? And then that's a pretty easy thing to do because most successful people, contrary to popular belief, wealthy people are not like extraordinarily selfish and never want to share any of their tricks with anyone. Sure, there are people out there like that are just jerks, but I mean, you'll find that most successful people in life at some point sat down and either spoke with someone who was going to write a book on how exactly they did it, or they themselves have written a book on how exactly they did it. So the information is out there. Everybody has already written the books that tell you exactly what to do. And then it's just a matter of like, once you kind of learn what it takes. It's pretty simple. And then you kind of realize it's just that, I think, Zoya, actually, I think one of the things that we said a couple of weeks ago is true still. And it'll be true forever. Like the more you realize that, like the more you learn, like wisdom, it's like this double-edged sword, right? Like the more you get, the more you realize you really don't know anything. And then what's really sad is when you see and you realize that like society is by and large pushing people into thinking that horrible decisions are the norm. So there's that shtick. I hope that was helpful. Knowing what you know now, starting with a $30K cash investment to start your real estate business portfolio, mind you, you have sustainable lifestyle. What would you do with this amount to grow your business? 30 grand. I would use 30 grand to buy another property. So what I do when I have extra money like this, so there's two things that I do when I have extra money like this. The first thing is lend it to other people that I know, love, and believe in so that they can invest in properties that will change their lives. And when we lend money, it's on a first position mortgage basis. So I either help someone buy a property, same business model that I'm doing, where we borrow money. We borrow enough money to buy one home at 10 or 12%. And then we own that property for a little bit. We get a bunch of these properties, and then we go to a commercial lender and refinance all of those properties, cash out all of our friends and family, and give them their money back. So because the math makes so much sense on real estate investing, given over the 30 years, like over the principal pay down, the appreciation, the cash flow, and the tax savings, you're really set. Like, I don't think there are any other investments out there that even can hold a flame to real estate investing. So if I were to have $30,000, only $30,000 now, what I would do is I'd either find somebody that I know, trusted, believed in, loved, and I would try and help them buy a property for $30,000, or I would circumvent the first part of our business model and find a property that I can use that $30,000 on as a down payment and jump straight into that long-term financing. There you go. That's exactly what I would do. Great channel. I'm in the same boat you were. I'm a 10-year police officer ready to be done. Nice. 2 twin. Wait. You have 2 twins at home? Or you have 2 homes that are exactly the same? Do you have 2 sets of twins? Or you have 2 kids that are twins? Thanks for your service, though, man, for real. When the water main busted last night in that commercial property, 2 police officers were there, one of which I know, of course. And they had to leave very quickly, lights and sirens, because a cop got in a fight with somebody. And as much as I loved law enforcement when I was in it, that just made me reflect on how much I really love that I'm not in it anymore. So thank you for still being in it, even though you're ready to get out. What you do on a daily basis is really important. 4 doors, 2 twin homes. Oh, you have 2 duplexes. Gotcha. I have never. Where in the world are you from that you called them twin homes? Man, that is funny. Oh, that was a good one. Which books have added the most value to your character and overall development? This goes to your financial development and general development. It's such a tough question, man, because like no one book exists that really changed my paradigm, you know? It's kind of like and if that book did exist, where would the fun be? Like even the Bible, right? It's not one book, it's like 66 books from different times and different places. So I think picking one, like you know, similarly speaking, and I'm not comparing wealth to the Bible, of course. I'm just saying like wisdom in general. Little nuggets are to be had from a lot of different places. There's no one place that you can get everything. Um, and I think if there were, life would be really boring. So it's kind of like every single book I read uh, and I read kind of weaves the fabric of a much bigger picture. And I think it's very unfair to pick out one and say it's the most beneficial, right? But I can tell you that the books that I was reading personally when I had breakthroughs, High Performance Habits by Brendon Bouchard, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of course. And I'll even tell you, I mean, um, again, coming from, I love my parents. I'm not saying we're low income, but like, I'm not like a silver spooned person, right? Very much so blue collar is the way that I was raised. The most prominent thing that stuck out to me in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad was, uh, you know, rich people buy assets while poor people buy liabilities. And liabilities and assets were explained in a manner in that book that I had never really heard before. And that is assets are things that make you money and liabilities are things that cost you money. And, you know, the liabilities, I mean, shoes, clothing, cars, all of these things that, you know, from like the blue collar perspective that I am, you know, like once you had enough money for something, go ahead and buy it because because you deserve it, right? And that just further kind of pushes you into this perpetual like self-fulfilling prophecy of like being poor. And that was like one of the aha moments where it's just like, man, every single dollar that I get, I need to put towards an asset, not any liabilities. So at the time, I mean, I had three vehicles. I had a Honda Civic, which I think was my most practical car. That's the only one that I kept. I had a massive Ford F-250 it was a 91, so it's not like it was nice or anything. It was all jacked up on like, you know, 35s and real big. And I had a Jeep Wrangler. So at the time, I was like 23. I had a house that I was accidentally house hacking, and then I also had three vehicles. So at the time, like I sold the vehicles, and that's when I think I did one video where I showed my shoes and they had holes in them. The tread was fine, but the fabric was just coming apart. So I really took a very long, intentional kind of war on all the liabilities that my natural tendency was to purchase those when I had extra capital. And I just stopped it and just started investing solely in things that would regularly make me money or grow over time. Let's see here. What other books? I definitely think John Saforic's The Wealthy Gardener. I didn't read that one until this past year when I was already pretty confident in what I was doing. But I think that book summarizes accurately so many of the other books that I have read. So I think that is the one book that if I had to give one person one book, it would be The Wealthy Gardener. And I truly believe that that book is the best book that has been written about this and in this like personal development space in like the past decade. So read that book, The Wealthy Gardener. And let me see, since I've got Genius links pulled up, let me go ahead and find that link for The Wealthy Gardener too, so that you can use my link to buy it on Amazon. I think it'll make me like $2. And I know that there is nothing you would rather your $2 do than go to my pocket. I mean, if you're gonna buy the book anyway, little old Ryan Ingram might as well make $2, right? Thank you, man. I really appreciate you being on here. How do you estimate remodel and unit hardening costs on the foreclosure that you can't see the inside of? You don't. It's kind of like a gamble. You can assume that everything needs to be done, and then you'd likely be surprised when not everything needs to be done. So I think that's an impossible question. I think you're stumping me. I don't think I can provide you an answer. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. And then there's my link. I still want to know where you're from, though, man. Where are you? Who told you something about twin homes? Where? What dialect of the English language is this? What geographical region did this originate? I need to know. I'm gonna Google it while you're busy not answering me. Twin homes. What is a twin home? It's not just another word for a duplex. An article written in 2017. The first time you come across the term twin home in a home buying search, you might confuse it with other types of properties that share walls like a duplex or a townhome. These types of properties look similar, but there are very important and subtle details that distinguish each from the others. So what's a twin home? Shares a center wall and looks like two identical homes. You own your house, someone else owns the other house. Oh, so they can be separated. The lot line runs down the middle of the house too. Now that's fascinating. So the difference between a duplex and a townhome, a twin home, lies in the ownership of the lot. A twin home is two properties on two lots, and a duplex is two properties on one lot. A twin home owner is responsible for the maintenance and insurance on their side of the lot. Why in the world would somebody do that to someone else? One structure, but you only own half of the structure. Lazy builders. Trying to cut costs, make people indefinitely share a wall. I'm just messing. I don't know. All right, 22 people still on here. Man, we're running strong with that number 22. I guess I'll never know where you're from, Jacob. But thanks for teaching me something, and thanks for introducing me to twin home. I've heard of that type of thing. I've heard it called a landominium. Landominium. All right. What do we got? You guys have anything? We've been going for 2 hours and 14 minutes. I need to leave here in about 15 minutes. So I think we can make it to a solid 2.5 hours and then call it a day. So any last minute questions, just go ahead and ask them. And I will answer them inside the confines of 15 minutes. So I will do my very best not to go on any long tirades. But hey, I haven't been the most successful in that today. Let's see. Yes, I do this every Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's one of my favorite parts of the week. Friday morning, I get on to answer questions about real estate investing. So it seems like there's a solid 5 or 10 people that are always on. I can kind of count on seeing them every week, and that's really fun. So Eugene Taylor, if you'd like to join that bunch, I would really appreciate it. Edwin Janeo seems to be on the list. Zoya Thomas, Luke and Jenny. I need you to help me say that name. I don't know if I can do that. 3D Tom. Janine Fowler. has said that she was interested in coming for several weeks now, and she finally made it this morning. So thank you. Thank you for putting me on your calendar and remembering. Oh, yeah, I don't think he's on here anymore because he's being so quiet, but Mr. Lewis Porter Jr., he's a reliable one. He's on here every week. Yeah, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate that you guys do this. 3747, another guy that's weekly. Yeah, it's tons of fun. Yeah, you did finally make it, and I'm so happy about it. Look at that. That's a good link. That's a good link for a good book. What's your process with working with contractors? How do you set up payment and work schedules for them? So kind of like the whole part about being a contractor, especially in the eyes of the government, 1099, if you're on a 1099 somebody, you cannot tell them when to be somewhere. That's like one of the when to be somewhere or any of that, because then that would be an employee. I have no contractors as employees. So I really don't set up any timelines or schedules. I mean, I like to be laid back. I don't like getting taken advantage of, but I do like to be laid back. That's just, I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to tell people, I don't want to give people hard deadlines. Nobody likes hard deadlines, in my opinion. Whenever I am working on a property, I drive by that property probably once per day. So like right now we've got 9 rehab projects going, and I will likely show up to the ones that are actively being worked on. And then if the contractors should be there and they're not, then I just send them a text asking them how the project is going. There's one contractor that I pay on a weekly basis for his labor hours and materials. And then there are other contractors that I pay when the job is complete. So it's kind of different for each one. And I really think it's up to the contractors how they get paid. Of course, the say in the matter that I voice is I don't like big deposits just for you to start working, especially because the first couple days of most jobs is demoing, not buying materials that are actively going in. So I don't really think a deposit is necessary. If you need materials, that's a whole nother thing. Yes, so pumped for you. So really quick, you're saying you would do one commercial loan to refi a segment of your portfolio to pull money out? No, that's not what I'm saying. Maybe it's what I'm saying, but so like we just did a refinance of 36 properties. We could run through these numbers pretty quick. So kind of the power of the business model that I'm doing is like we borrow money from friends and family at 10 and 12%. We pay them monthly payments. So like let's say we're buying a property for 40 grand. We borrow 40 grand or a little bit more than that from a friend or family member. We buy the house, we get it rented out. And we pay the 10 to 12% interest only payments on a monthly basis. So every month, instead of paying a mortgage or a bank, we pay our friend or family $400 a month, 12% of 40 grand. And that money is secured by the first position mortgage. So in essence, they are the bank. We get a bunch of these properties together. So like we just did a 36 property refinance. So the total loan amount was like 1.6 million. On those 36 properties, we were paying friends and family on first position mortgages around $12,000 a month. Now, since we refinanced, our monthly payment has now lowered to $10,000 per month because our new loan is at 4.25%. but it's amortized over 20 years. So now that we've lumped those together, we lowered our monthly payment, and now we're paying down about $4,500 per month in principal. So again, the way that you make money in real estate is the appreciation, which we have no control over, a principal pay down, which while we are borrowing money from friends and family, it's interest only payment. So there is no principal pay down. So now we've just introduced, So now we've introduced like the loan is reducing by $4,500 per month. Now the cash flow. So now we've increased our cash flow by a little over $2,000 a month. And then the tax benefits, and the tax benefits on this one is that if we were to have taken money out, well, we did take a little bit of money out just because of the way that the appraisals came back. That's not a taxable event. And then we also paid back our friends and families about $1.6 million. So some of those individuals have said, hey, when are you going to do that again? That was fun. So that's why this year we've been able to buy somewhere around like 20 homes, is because since we did that refinance, we've got people that want to mortgage homes with us because they thought it was fun and they wanted to do it again. I hope that answers your question a little bit more. Tolu, as in toll road. Toll road? Tolu. Oh, Tolu. Tolu. Got it. REI TV. Thanks, man. Thanks for asking that question. That was fun. 7 more minutes. Any questions? Any questions at all? Tolu. Tolulope. Tolu. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm trying to follow your directions. We've got Tolu and Zoya. We're going places. All right. I got about 5 minutes. Questions. Yeah, thanks for asking. It's always fun to be able to go over that kind of stuff. It's really powerful. And we're down to 18 people now. So at least 4 people said, you know what? Whoever's left on this call, they're not going to ask any questions. They're over it. All righty. Well, I sure do appreciate everything. Awesome. All righty. Well, I sure do appreciate it. I will see you all next week, Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, you should read The Wealthy Gardener. And then you should check out PropStream. Increase your deal flow with PropStream. All right, guys. I really appreciate you all. This is tons of fun. Thanks. I will see you next week.